Dementia worsens over time, and caregivers need ideas and information on how to support their loved ones as it gets worse. Here we go through 7 specific ways to promote quality of life in the severe stages of dementia. She was 73 when I met her. Funny, silly. She sat in a wheelchair and used this old school kind of board with pictures on it to communicate to people. Her name was Luann, and the entire nursing home loved her. She wasn't the easiest to care for as a 16-year-old nursing assistant. She was a large person, and she was in a wheelchair, and her body was folded in different ways from strokes and other disease. Me toting the snap cart around and offering those to her whenever she would like probably didn't help. But the bottom line was she was fun. We wanted to interact with her. Over time, she graduated to this really simple kind of electronic texting device where she would poke out one letter at a time until finally, at the end, this long strip of paper would spit out and we would get to capture some part of a silly joke or some important thought that she had. While the technology evolved, her body didn't. And over time, she couldn't really navigate her wheelchair anymore. She couldn't really share the funny jokes that used to come out so effortlessly. And at some point, she was stuck in bed. Even in bed, she still had those sparkly eyes and sometimes would let out a little giggle, kind of letting you know that the laughter and happiness was still inside. Losing her slowly over time was devastating, especially at a time in my life when I thought everything was only getting bigger and better as a teenager. In the 3rd stage of severe dementia, a person's body is beginning to fail in more significant ways. In my previous 2 videos, I outlined ideas for what can we do in mild and moderate stages of dementia. In this stage, when a person's body is failing in this way, we look for more indicators and more ways to enhance quality of life. So let's jump right into some scenarios and see how we can deal lovingly with them. But before we start, I do want to emphasize that these ideas are best for caregivers who have watched my other videos and have worked to cultivate ways to support themselves first. Because you need resources and energy that just aren't available to empty pitchers. So let's start. Number 1, someone's memory might get much worse to the extent that they'd only remember for a few moments and the past disappears. What do you do with this? You live in the moment. The past doesn't exist anymore, and the future can't be a reality for them, but the present moment is there. Notice your surroundings. Notice the smell of lunch being cooked or cookies coming from the kitchen, the beautiful plants and birds just out the window, and the way their hands feel soft and smooth and cool all at the same time. Number 2, they might speak much less, and the words that used to just roll out of their tongues don't come very easily anymore. What do you do with this? You turn away from demanding specific words or certain combinations or numbers of words. You start focusing on things like the richness of music, the beauty and sparks that come from looking at pictures, or what happens with soft touch. You might find a blanket that feels like the first day of autumn. You know what those are like, those ones that are stacked on the Costco shelves and they are so soft and cuddly you can't help but want to buy them. You might snuggle under it together and appreciate what it feels like to be wrapped up together in velvet. Number 3, they might struggle to recognize or communicate their basic needs. Things like being hungry or thirsty or in pain or tired or having to go to the bathroom. So what do? You anticipate for them. No, they aren't newborn babies, but the concepts that we use with children really do make sense here. Those ideas help us anticipate what might feel good to them and what they might need before or without them having to say it. You pay attention to bodily cues, like facial expressions or eye movements or sounds that they might be making. You inspect their body for anything that looks like it might be irritated or being rubbed in some uncomfortable way. You understand their medical history and become hyper aware of anything that might be causing pain or anything else that we can do to help them be more comfortable. Number 4, they might become dependent on other people for everything related to their care. Things like bathing and dressing and grooming and toileting and feeding, the basics of our life. So what do you do with this? You normalize the need and show them how much you adore them with every step. Lovingly applied toothpaste brushes away way more germs than things that are in a hurry. Bathing is a chance to experience slow immersion in different temperatures, the feel of a warm washcloth, and breathing together. Waiting for somebody to empty their bladder could feel like an irritating waste of time, or it could be the next opportunity to belt out your "we don't talk about broom, no, 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 no." And you might work on getting it in key. They might become slow and unbalanced so that they can't get around easily, they shouldn't even be walking on their own, and they're a significant fall risk. What do? You avoid lecturing on the need to not get up and walk on your own or the dangers of falling. They either already know this or their brain can't remember or act on the information anymore. If they're movable, you experiment going places. Not far away, awesome places like your favorite restaurant or the library, but nearby interesting places, like going from the kitchen to the dining room or wheeling outside when it's nice weather. You'll find new scenery and see if it pleases them and if it pleases you. The combination of pleasure is more powerful than just one person experiencing it. You bring the world to them in the form of pictures and books and pets and music and laughter. I remember when we went to see my partner's grandfather, and he wasn't especially mobile, he wasn't especially able to get out and do things, and our little boy, who was about 3, wanted to bring his tools. So we literally brought a cardboard box and some kid tools and a couple of screws or nails or whatever. And our 3-year-old sat next to him and used his tools, and they kind of did it together. It was great. Number 6, they can show differences in behavior and changes in their personality. They might become agitated or aggressive or restless or disconnected. Some people can experience hallucinations or delusions. So what do? You investigate the cause. You look for what could be triggering this kind of behavior. Is it some kind of medical issue? Are they uncomfortable? Are they overstimulated? Are they confused about unfamiliar surroundings? Is there some other unmet need? You orchestrate a calm environment, doing your best to minimize extra noise or too many people or bright lights or things that could cause distress or confusion. You redirect and distract, refocusing on something else that might be happy or positive. I remember at the nursing home, we would burst into happy birthday as many times as necessary for any particular resident who needed to feel like it was their birthday on that particular day. Sometimes several days a week. It almost always worked and brought smiles and happiness to everybody. You offer reassurance and comfort with a calm voice and gentle touch. Number 7, this stage is notable for problems with bodily functions. There are things like incontinence and even problems swallowing. The swallowing issue can lead to a certain type of pneumonia that can be deadly. So what do? You pay attention. You work with providers to make sure that your loved one is getting foods that are optimized for their body. It might mean something that's thickly pureed or in some other shape or form. You work with therapists to ensure that their swallowing is as safe as can be, and you promote whatever techniques are learned in therapy. You try to have patience with wet or messy bedding, and you address it yourself or you ask for help with someone else who can do that. With all of these experiences and others that we may not have covered today, the focus is on calm, patient interactions that highlight the 5 senses. This can tap into deeply held memories that are accessed by our senses. It might be something like a favorite song triggering a memory, or a favorite smell triggering an emotion of, oh, I remember when my mom made chocolate chip cookies, or when I smell freshly cut grass, it really brings me back to the farm. The things that we're talking about today require that a caregiver have a base of resources of their own. This allows for the time and energy to have that patience and to care so deeply and carefully. Since most caregivers struggle to allocate resources for themselves, you might want to watch this video where we go through strategies that can enhance the resources that you have as a caregiver. I'll see you there.